Hey y'all, welcome back to Twin Oaks Family Farm in rural Southeast Ohio, USA. Thanks for joining me here at Twin Oaks Farm Poultry on YouTube. This is our Saturday show and tell and share video for July 20th, 2024. And the feature in today's video is spaghetti squash. So have several things I want to show you with spaghetti squash and talk about how we prepare it. Get your feedback in the comments. Do y'all use spaghetti squash? Have you baked it, prepared it? Do you grow it? It's really easy to start from seed, and we actually have some in the process of growing on the vine to show you. So it's great that we're going to get to see kind of how it starts and how much room it takes up when it's growing and the finished product. Okay, so thanks for joining me. I really appreciate it. So spaghetti squash, here's an example of a finished one. So this is a store-bought spaghetti squash. Okay, so a member of the winter squash family, and it's tough skin. It's not as tough as a pumpkin, but it's kind of tough to cut. It is relatively thin though once you've cooked it and utilized the squash inside it. There's very little waste because the skin is very thin. That's all you end up having to throw away really. The flesh inside is edible. The seeds are edible. So there's very little waste with it. And as far as a finished dish, it's nutrient dense, it's high fiber, relatively low calorie. Like a cup of it may be about 40 calories. So low calorie, antioxidants, vitamin C, one of the B vitamins, and like I said, the seeds, you can even roast those and eat those too. Or you may want to save the seeds for planting your own spaghetti squash. But this is a store-bought one. Now this is a homegrown one right here. And it's not quite ripe yet, I don't think, but it's a pretty nice one. It's a little bigger actually than that store-bought one. But this homegrown one is actually from seeds saved from a store-bought one. And in fact, they volunteered here. We had thrown a spaghetti squash, the remains of it that we had fixed, out into this little flower bed, and so then we really didn't pay attention to it, and before long there was something growing there, and at first we weren't really even sure, like, what is it that's growing there? So you can see that we have some spaghetti squash plants that volunteered there, and that's a space that I would say is approximately maybe 6.5 foot by 6.5 foot. And so whatever seeds got tossed out in there sprouted, and it takes up about all of that room. So they do vine a lot, take up a lot of room, but you can see there's several in here. So there's one. There's actually one right behind it there. There's a small one, little teeny one growing there. Okay. And there's two here. So there's one. And there's one right beside it. Okay. And the one I showed you there. And then there's actually one more that's pretty good size right down there. Okay. So those aren't quite ripe yet, but they're getting there. They store relatively well, and they're really great veggie. You know, they're kind of like, if you've cooked them, when you cook the flesh up inside of them, it kind of cooks up like it splits into long strands. So that's part of why I like the spaghetti squash name. It looks like noodles, looks like spaghetti noodles, but being a vegetable, of course, it's you know, not carbs, and instead it's fiber. So it actually is a good replacement for pasta noodles in a lot of dishes if need be. Okay, so I want to show you the couple things that we have accompanying that. There's Tanner. Hi, buddy. Hi, buddy. He's out here helping me. So, okay, so these were spaghetti squash seeds that we saved April of 24 from a store-bought spaghetti squash. And I took some of these seeds and planted in strawberry tubs like these, 4 to a tub. And so we have lots of sprouts of spaghetti squash. So, you know, like I said, I had saved these and thought, well, who knows if they'll germinate, who knows what we'll end up with. But they did. They did. I didn't plant them till here in July. And I would say that those probably sprouted around July 15th. So I happened to have a seed packet, though, of spaghetti squash as well to share some information here. So since they only need like 67 or 70 days, even though it's July, and they're typically harvested in the fall anyway, I thought, well, I'll go ahead and start them because that's just about 2 months. So by mid-September, late September, we should be able to harvest the ones we just started now. So spaghetti squash, a unique squash with delicious spaghetti-like interior, harvest when ripe. Now this says boil for 30 minutes, cut into and scoop out the spaghetti. So that's, I really haven't done it that way before, but that's really a good idea because that would soften that outer skin. So it tells you there about sowing the seeds, thinning the plants, germination took 10 to 14 days, and the remarks, allow the fruits to remain on the vine until fully matured. Protect the small plants from insects, water as needed, and keep vines picked clean. So spaghetti squash, real easy to grow. So the way that we fix it is we do cut it in half long ways. And so that makes you like 2 boats, 2 halves of the spaghetti squash that kind of resemble boats. And then we take those and maybe drizzle a little olive oil on them and whatever seasoning you prefer, and put those cut side down on a baking sheet and roast them in the oven for 45 minutes, even up to 60 minutes, and probably around 375 degrees Fahrenheit temperature in the oven. And then when you are done baking those, roasting those, you'll be able to take like a fork and work through that interior flesh, and it'll just separate into strands, and you can just get it out of that skin. Before you bake it though, I guess I should add that when you cut that in half lengthwise, in the center cavity is where the seeds are. So we always scoop all the seeds out first, and a little bit of flesh will come with it. Scoop all the seeds out in the flesh and get that all out of that central cavity, and then you'll have the rest of your spaghetti squash ready to season and roast. And then after you get it out, it's ready to prepare, and you can use it like spaghetti and put spaghetti sauce over it, or you can just eat it as is, or, you know, that's making it kind of savory. We find that we even like sometimes to serve it a little sweet, like you could put brown sugar and cinnamon on it, you know, and it'd be kind of sweet. So anyways, just kind of interesting, the spaghetti squash itself, but it was kind of neat to have all these different like stages of it, you know, visible at one time. The seeds, the sprouts, the vines, a maturing spaghetti squash, and a ripe spaghetti squash. So wanted to show y'all the progress with the spaghetti squash, and this one was kind of a mystery plant for a while, so it's kind of neat that now we know for sure what it is, that it is a spaghetti squash. And it kind of surprised me how it volunteered there just like that. So it seems like there was one other thing I wanted to tell you about the spaghetti squash. I'm kind of drawing a blank on it just now, but anyway, so wanted to show y'all that for this time on our Saturday show and tell and share. We sure appreciate your support of our channel. Going to keep this one short at that, and hope that you'll join us again. We appreciate your support, time, and effort very much. give the video a thumbs up if you like it. Put something in comments. We'd appreciate it. And join us for videos on raising meat chickens on our channel. That's really the cornerstone of the video content on our channel, but we like to throw in these other things that we enjoy and that we do. Oh, so the thing about the spaghetti squash, I know it came to me. One thing I was thinking was, first of all, remember the seeds also are edible. So just the same way like you might save pumpkin seeds and roast those and season them and you enjoy eating them as a snack, same thing you can do with spaghetti squash seeds. Or, like I said, you can save them, repurpose them for growing your own spaghetti squash. And on that train of thought, it just shows, don't discount what we can get from even store-bought produce. You know, ideally, we can raise it in our backyard, or we can go to a local farmer and buy our produce there. But even if we need to get things at the grocery store as far as produce, sometimes there's ways to glean something from that produce that then we can use in a purposeful way in our own backyard or kitchen. And so like the spaghetti squash is a perfect example. Even though it was store-bought, you can end up with a plethora of seeds from it, you know, and this is what's left after I planted a bunch of seeds from a store-bought spaghetti squash. And these those little tubs like that we did, I probably have about 7 total of those, and I did 4 in each one. So that was 28 seeds, and I still have a lot of spaghetti squash seeds. So that's one thing that I think is really important to remember. Even when we have to buy like our produce store-bought, there may be a way to save the seeds and glean something very useful for our homestead or household from that. So keep that in mind, and find a way to make those things you have to get work for you. So we appreciate you. Signing off. We'll see you next week. God bless y'all.